Hey everybody, this is Jason. I thought I would definitely do something different this time. I'm gonna watch a video with you guys of one of my favorite shows of all time, and that's Unsolved Mysteries. I figured Halloween's around the corner, and so what better than to do a couple segments of some of the ghost segments, and maybe if this catches on, I'll continue doing this with some of the other ones. Um, but I'm going to start out with watching my favorite ghost story from the original Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, which again is my favorite. He's my favorite host. Um, no offense to any of the other hosts that they've had, but Robert Stack is by far, in my opinion, the best one, and he sets the mood perfectly. Now, there's multiple ways to watch Unsolved Mysteries, and real quickly, I'll show you. I got some DVDs of Unsolved Mysteries that I've collected over the years, and you'll notice they go with the UFO episodes, the best ghosts, um, bizarre murders, strange legends, and miracles. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to buy those. You can probably buy them on eBay for some money, but you cannot buy them brand new. You can also watch the seasons on Amazon Prime. I think YouTube actually, if you search Unsolved Mysteries on YouTube, you'll be able to you'll be able to watch some of them. Now, unfortunately, some of these segments got cut for whatever reason. Not 100% certain, but you won't be able to watch all of the episodes, like the one we're about to watch called Tallman's Ghost. So let's go ahead and start the video, and I will talk to you during the video. So I'm going to go ahead and start it right now.
In early February of 1987, Alan and Debbie Tallman brought home a bunk bed they had purchased at a second-hand furniture shop.
You got that, partner?
They assembled the bed and stored it in their basement.
I'm just going to comment on some of this. So this is a second-hand, obviously a second-hand bunk bed that it supposedly is when the ghosts started happening in their home that they had just purchased. The strange thing about this part is that they assembled the bed in the basement and they stored it down there for a little bit. That, to me, that just seems a little odd, because then they're gonna have to disassemble it and then bring it back up to the first floor level, or it just seems kind of strange to me. Just an observation.
That's right, didn't we? Well, look.
When the bunk bed was moved upstairs, it marked the beginning of 9 months of horror for the Tallmans. From the moment the bed was first slept in, the house appeared to be haunted by spirits that terrorized first the children, then the entire family.
I just gotta pause it real quick. Just again, Robert Stack to me is awesome. It's just amazing just the mood that he sets this. I mean, it's on most of the episodes, honestly, but especially this one. He definitely gives the feeling of everybody being terrorized.
Daddy.
I was afraid for my life. I also was very afraid for my family. I had visions of coming home from work and actually seeing my family destroyed.
That's gotta be
brutally
horrible,
murdered,
honestly,
or just laying there dead.
The house where the Tallmans lived had no known history of hauntings, and the Tallmans had never in their lives given ghosts a second thought. They are regular churchgoers. Debbie is a housewife and mother, and Alan is shift supervisor in a manufacturing plant. They are credible and responsible citizens, but their paranormal experiences have left them deeply scarred. They ask that actors portray them in this story, and that their children's real names not be used. The Tallmans feel they were in a battle with forces they do not understand, a battle they were destined to lose.
Just what he just said right there, to me, it makes me feel that this story is credible. They appear to be normal, everyday citizens. Nothing to gain out of this story. But so you heard Robert Stack, and again, he sets the mood here perfectly.
American Wisconsin is a small farming town of 3,800 people. It is a safe and prosperous place, hardly the spot one would expect to have a terrifying encounter with the supernatural.
I always thought that part was
All
kind
the
of
scenes that
funny,
we
honestly.
recreated were filmed in this
the
house,
fact that, you know, it's a small
the very
town.
place where the Tallmans had their uncanny meeting
He
with
says
the world
something,
of spirits.
the fact that small towns, you know, you wouldn't think that they'd have ghosts. So I just thought that was kind of weird. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me. I think ghosts, whether they exist or not, they don't matter. It doesn't matter to them whether you're in a big city, small city. So I just thought that was a weird observation by Robert Stack himself.
The Tallman family moved into the house on April 13th, 1986.
Well, yeah, it was our dream house.
It's pretty cool that they were able to go back to the house.
We figured we were going to be there for a long time, you know, and it was a dream house.
Are you feeling any better?
Within weeks, the Tallman children, who had rarely been sick, began to fall ill.
Can you just put that in there just a little bit longer, honey?
After we moved into the house, it seemed like our children were sick all the time. We had them into the doctor's office. Sometimes I would have all three of them in a week.
In late May of 1987, Debbie and Alan moved the bunk bed they had bought upstairs. That night, the Tallman's son Danny was sleeping in the room next door to the bunk bed.
Okay? Good. Have a good night.
Okay.
The bedrooms had been rearranged, and Danny had inherited his parents' old clock radio. On this night, the radio seemed to take on a life of its own.
I just gotta imagine that this would be creepy as a kid. It'd be creepy for me as an adult, but this kid
My
has gotta be
son,
freaked out.
he came running out in the living room, and he says, "But Mom and Dad," he says, "I seen it. The dial moved." He said the indicator went from one side to the radio to the other. And we kind of looked at each other and says, well, if you're going to have a fit with the radio and cause this kind of ruckus, we'll just take the radio out, you know, because that stuff just does not happen.
A few weeks later, Alan Tallman himself had an experience he could not explain. He was busy painting the walls in his basement, but decided to take a break.
My wife called me up for dinner, so I just laid the brush, and I was going to return after I ate my lunch. And after dinner time was over, I went downstairs, down cellar. And the brush was in the paint pail with the bristles sticking up right in the paint pail. I figured there was something strange why this happened.
I don't even know what to say
why
about
the brush
that, how
got
that
into
would
the
happen,
paint pail,
honestly.
but,
There's no explanation,
still,
honestly.
I wouldn't accept that my house was haunted.
Go with ice.
The Tallman's 2-year-old daughter was sleeping in the bunk bed. She began to see things in her room.
At one time, my daughter had talked about a witch behind her door, and the fire. A lot of it was fire, and we had never mentioned it to our son at all. And then I'd say probably about a month later, he had said, "Mom, I saw an old lady standing by my door."
I mean, she had to see something. I don't know what
and,
it is, honestly.
he
but
said that she glowed like fire.
again, got to be pretty creepy
At this
for
point,
a
I
very
began
small
to think that our house was
kid.
probably haunted.
Sit down. Let's talk all this out here.
The Tallmans were desperate. They turned to their family pastor. He felt the presence of evil in the house and thought they might be the victims of the devil.
I'd known them about a year and a half when they called me to come and visit with them about what was going on in the house.
Is this normal? I mean,
I believe that my initial analysis of the entity being in the spiritual realm, the occult realm, the demonic, if you will, was accurate. And I still believe it's accurate.
The Tallmans claim they never had a moment's peace. Doors banged open and shut. Strange voices called to them.
Mom?
The visions persisted. The children were terrorized.
Mom! I don't want
The week before Christmas, Danny once again saw something that horrified him.
It's okay. Nobody's Daddy's here. You're okay. Do something.
I've done everything that I can.
Alan had reached his breaking point. He totally lost control and challenged the entity.
I was like a wild man running around in my house, and I
So
couldn't.
basically, they keep seeing some old lady. That's what the kids. That's pretty much old lady and fire. So they're obviously seeing something, the same ghost, if you will. The next part right here, before it even starts, the dad makes a huge mistake right here, in my opinion. But it's understandable why he does this, but huge mistake.
No control over it.
Come out of there! Show yourself to me!
I started yelling on the top of my voice. I said, "What's ever in our house, would you please leave my children alone? And if you want to fight, fight with me."
3 weeks later, on January the 7th, Alan Tallman returned home from working the late shift around 2 a.m.
I understand what he's saying right there. But the challenge, a ghost like that is pretty crazy. But again, I've never been in his shoes, so I understand why he yelled like that. And I love
Outside
Unsolved
the garage,
Mysteries, the music,
he heard an eerie,
the soundtrack
howling
is
sound.
eerie.
He went to investigate.
It started out real soft, and then it got real loud. It was a real strong howling of wind, but it was quiet outside. And a voice came out of the howling, and it says, "Come here." I ran around the sides of the house, looking to see if anybody was there, and I couldn't see nothing. So I went back to the house steps, and the vacuum of the wind started up again. It started out real soft, and it got real loud.
I always love that part. How
And
he,
the voice said, "Come
hello,
here," and
it's the middle of the night, dude.
it just kept on saying, "Come here, come here." And I focused onto the garage door, and I seen a glow. And I run. I got scared, and I ran. And I ran to the house, and I opened the door, and I set my lunch pail on the floor. I locked the door, and I stood there for a brief couple of seconds, and I says, "Oh my God, my garage is on fire." And I ran back out on the porch, and I looked towards the garage, and there was nothing. The garage was just as normal as was I came home from work. So I quick went back in the house, and I closed the door and deadbolted the door and locked the door. After I had the door locked, I reached down to pick up my lunch pail, and this thing hurtled right through the living room.
He came home that night and he was just running around the room. I mean, literally running. He ran in the bedroom, ran around the bed,
Always a creepy
ran over
moment
to the dresser,
since I
threw his
watched
keys
when I
up
was a
on the
kid.
dresser. I've never seen him like that before.
Alan Tallman began sleeping on the floor of his daughter's room each night. The girls were traumatized and needed help falling asleep.
I started to see this fog starting to appear on the floor, and a voice
too
came
bad.
out of it, and it says, "You're dead."
When he came out of the bedroom, he wouldn't talk to me. His lips were blue. He was so white, you know. I tried to get him to tell me what happened, but all he did was stand there, and tears were running out of his
Hear something
eyes.
like that.
Do something.
And so I went to the phone and I called the pastor and I said, "You've got to come over here." I said, "Something happened and Alan's crying." I said, "And he won't tell me what happened."
When I arrived, Alan was very frightened. He was shaking. He was visibly shaken at what he had seen. Alan gave me no indication at all that he was in any way fabricating what he was telling me. And my sense of that was heightened by the fact that I've been with people before who had described things similar to what Alan was describing. And his fear and terror at what he had seen was very similar to what I had seen before.
A few days later, Alan was working late. He asked a relative of his to watch over the two girls until they fell asleep. Alan's relative was a complete skeptic. That night, he changed his mind. The same specter appeared.
the relative came out of the bedroom, and I said, what happened? And he was scared. I said, where's the baby? He goes, back in the bedroom. I said, get her. I said, we are leaving this house. I said, I am never coming back to this house.
I mean, honestly.
I said, I don't care. I said, I have had it. I can't handle this no more.
That night, Debbie fled from the house she had thought would be her dream home.
Hurry up!
2 weeks after they fled their home, Alan and Debbie Tallman had the bunk bed destroyed.
After we left the house, everybody asked us, can this follow you? I never thought it could happen the first time. So I don't know if this is the end of the story.
The Tallmans have moved to another city now, and so far they've experienced no paranormal phenomena. A new family moved into the Tallmans' house last April, and they've had no problems. Perhaps in the world of spirits, as well as in the world of human beings, it is possible simply to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, to me, it's still an awesome segment. It was pretty creepy to me as a kid watching this. This is from season 1, so it's one of the very first episodes and segments that they had. I'll probably be doing some of the other segments from this episode specifically because of the fact that this was the Halloween special. There's like 4 different segments based off of ghosts. And so I figured I would start with this one. Again, this is my favorite. I do love all the ghost stories, honestly. But there's something about season 1 that to me was pretty awesome. And this is, to me, a good example of it, of how the episodes were. Okay, that's going to be it, and we will do another episode, another segment of Unsolved Mysteries very shortly. Have a good day. We'll talk to you later.